Shalom. Thanks for tuning in to the Restores of Truth YouTube channel. I'm Elder Isaac Hill of Restores of Truth Ministries, sharing with you another Scripture Nugget. We had previously began to study Scripture Nuggets based upon the words of Yahushua and the words of Moshe, attempting to answer the question, why are you still a Christian and why are you still using the name Jesus or the title God? As I stated, we are going to use the words of Yahushua, HaMashiach himself, and the words of Moshe. Over the last two Scripture Nuggets, we based upon, or rather we used the Scripture text of what the book of Yochanan, chapter 5, was saying, or what Yahushua was saying in that particular chapter. Today, we're going to look at Yochanan, chapter 6, verse 38. Again, using the words of the HaMashiach to see and to answer, why are you still a Christian? Now, in Yochanan chapter 6, verse 38, Yahushua is speaking here. This is after he fed the 5,000. This is after he began the commentary of the Midrash teaching of him being the bread of life. But he makes a statement here that is very profound, that I think all of us should really pay attention to what he was actually saying. He says, because I have come down, verse 38, out of the Shamayim, your translation may use the word heaven, but it should be Shamayim, not to do my own desire, but the desire of him who sent me. Now, what is he saying here? Yahushua is actually using a figure of speech here. And that's another way that you should understand or look at the words of Yahushua to show that he did not come to teach anything different. But here he's using a figure of speech, and he began by using the phrase, I have come down. Now, immediately when you hear that, I have come down, he's actually pointing us to Torah. How was the Torah given? The Torah was given because it came down where? From above. Now, he also uses the phrase or the word desire. Look what he says, but because I have come down out of the Shamayim, not to do my own desire. Remember on the previous Scripture Nugget, we showed through the Scripture that a Navi, a prophet as you would call, cannot come in his own name. He cannot come also in his own desire. In other words, his will has to match the Father's will. If his will matches the Father's will, then he must speak the words of the Father. He must fulfill the desire of the Father. Now look at this. The word desire in this particular text is equal to the word will. It's a Greek word, number 2307, which means or has a Greek definition of thelema, a Greek word thelema. Now that means a wish or a desire, and it also means an emotional element that leads to an action. Okay, so Yahushua is actually telling us that he has a will, a desire that calls him to act in the will and the desire of the Father, not his own desire. Because if he acted in his own will, then we would have to say that he came to establish something different. He came to establish Christianity. If we say that he came in his own will, if we say that he came in his own desire, he came to do or to start something new. So we can't say that he came in his own will, because that goes against the words that he spoke. Look at this again. Because I have come down out of the Shamayim, not to do my own desire, pointing us to Torah, but the desire of him who sent me. Again, in the Christian mindset, there's a teaching or a belief system that says that Messiah came to teach and to do something totally different than what he had received of the Father. Again, he's pointing us to Torah. He pointed us to his word, his debar. So let's look at Isaiah chapter 55, or Yeshayahu chapter 55, and let's look at verse 11. Let's see what the Navi Yeshayahu was speaking here. Now this is what Yahuwah, this is what he is speaking through the Navi Yeshayahu, or who you call Isaiah. He says, now, so is my word, Isaiah 55 and 11, is my word that goes forth from my mouth. It does not return to me empty, but shall do what I please, and shall certainly accomplish what I sent it for. Now, everything that Yahuwah made, everything that was created, everything that is after him, patterned after him, hand-woven, handmade after him, must perform the Father's or the Creator's will. So Yahushua has to fit this mold because he is the living word. He is the walking, breathing, the Torah example. So he says, so is my word that goes forth from my mouth. It does not return to me empty. In other words, that it does what it is designed to do. Mashiach does what he is designed to do. That is to speak the will of the Father. Now let's look at another particular scripture. In the book of Moshe, Devarim chapter 8, verse 3, what you call Deuteronomy, this is what Moshe is saying. He's talking about the relationship or the providence that Yahuwah gave to his people Yasharel. Look what he says in verse 3, chapter 8, and he humbled himself and let you suffer hunger and fed you with manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know. Look at this purpose here. To make you know that man does not live by bread alone. Man does not live by his actions. Man does not live by the natural course of things, but by every devar, every word that comes from the mouth of Yahuwah. So Mashiach has to fulfill this. He has to say this. And you know what? He did say that in the book of Netanyahu. Man does not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeded out of the mouth of Yahuwah. You see, he's making a connection here. Yahushua did not come to establish Christianity. That means that he came to do his own will. Now you remember it also in the book of Luke or Lucas in chapter 40 or 24, where there was two men walking on the road to Emmaus, and Mashiach has already been resurrected, if you will. He has been arisen. So there's a conversation going on, and Yahushua sees these two men, and he joins them on their road to Emmaus. But I want you to focus on verse 25 and verse 26 and verse 27 of Luke chapter 24. This is what the Mashiach is saying. Look at what he said. He said to them, O thoughtless ones and slow of heart, to believe in all that the Nabi or the Nabim have spoken. Now, your translation may say prophets, but he tells them, O fools, or O thoughtless ones, and slow of heart to believe. In other words, you are slow in believing what the scripture is saying. You're slow in believing what the prophets, what the Nabi, what the Nabiim is saying, what they were saying. Was it not necessary, verse 26, for the Mashiach to suffer these and to enter into his sting? Now pay very close attention to verse 27, Luke 24:27. And beginning at Moshe and all the prophets or the Naviim, he was explaining to them or expounding to them. He just didn't quote the scripture, but he began to expound and explain to them all the scriptures concerning himself. Now, what scripture was he using? Was he using the so-called New Testament? No. But the scriptures he was using was the Tanakh, Moshe. He was using the prophets, the Naviim. Now, why did he begin at Moshe? Look what it says in verse 27 again. He began at Moshe. Why did he begin at Moshe? How come he didn't begin using some of the Talmudim quotes that he used or that he chose? He used Moshe. Why? Because Moshe, the Torah, what you call the law, is the foundation whereby every instruction is built and directed upon. Every prophet, as you call them, every Nabi that came from Elohim spoke only the Torah. This is where we get our belief. This is where we get our emunah. This is where you get your belief, your emunah. Now you say you get your belief from JESUS, but I want to tell you, you get your belief from the foundation. You never build a house without a foundation. Without a foundation. Now we're going to look at one particular, this last particular chapter or this particular verse that is in the book of Romans, or Romans chapter 10, verse 17. It's a foundational quoted text that many Christians quote. Now he says this in Romans chapter 10, verse 17. One translation says, so then faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. In other words, Elohim. Now, but it says, so then belief comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Elohim. Now, if your belief, if your faith has come, then it must come by the hearing of Elohim, the word of Elohim. The word of Elohim cannot be different from the words of Yahushua. The words of Yahushua cannot be different from the words of Elohim, because he only spoke the words of Elohim. Now here's a nugget I want you to ponder. If your belief or your faith comes by hearing the word of Elohim, God as you call it, then where in the word of God or Elohim does it say that Mashiach, Messiah, Yahushua, your JESUS as you would call, where does it say that he came to establish Christianity? Shalom, shalom. See you next time on Scripture Nugget.